As the start of the Olympics nears, worries over various issues surrounding the Games are coming to the forefront right now. And this includes a doping case involving China's Olympic swimming team, which is currently being looked into by a U.S. House subcommittee. Now, Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps set to speak before that committee on this particular issue this evening. Meantime, some athletes are openly voicing their concerns over the conditions in their Olympic quarters, with Team USA, for example, now set to bring their own AC units. On top of that, there are worries that certain events may not happen at all. Test results from the Seine showing unhealthy levels of bacteria and E. coli, potentially disrupting open water swimming. And still other environmental concerns, especially in regards to the two-day surfing competition that won't be held in France, but rather on the island of Tahiti, a French territory more than 9,000 miles away. All right, so there's so much to talk about. Joining us now is WGN Radio News Director and producer and host of the Olympics-focused podcast Quest for Gold, Ryan Burrow. Ryan, thanks so much for making the time today.
Thanks for having me. You know, it's interesting. I talk to a lot of these athletes, and air conditioning is one of the first things they bring up when they're talking about thoughts about the games and you know, how they plan on going about those 2 weeks.
Yeah, it may sound, right, it sounds small, but gosh, can that throw you off your game and just drain you if you're not able to even sleep because it's so hot? Ryan, why don't we start with the anti-doping hearing on Capitol Hill? We're going to hear from Michael Phelps and fellow Olympic gold medalist Allison Schmidt as well, set to testify before the House subcommittee. What are we expecting will come out of this hearing?
Well, they're going to be very frustrated with WADA and the ability for these Chinese swimmers who not only competed, but won medals, apparently after testing positive for a substance that was banned. Now, the Chinese government says it was a heart medication that these athletes were inadvertently exposed to. Full-on investigation by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, is going to ultimately determine the cause of that. But you can imagine the Americans aren't too happy, especially when many of them, you know, lost medals as a result of this. So they're probably going to come out very strongly. I don't know what Congress is going to be able to do to rectify the situation at all. But, you know, it's something that they want to get there out in the open, especially ahead of these games in Paris.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Which countries in particular have continually gotten in trouble, or at least a lot of scrutiny aimed in their direction when it comes to doping?
Well, China obviously being one of the top ones, and Russia, which will not even be operating under its own flag again this year, not only for the doping, which has happened in previous Olympics, but also due to the war in Ukraine. As far as those Russian athletes go, they will not be able to compete under the Russian flag, and they may not be able to compete altogether if they participated in the invasion in Ukraine or supported it in any way, and that's going to be up to the IOC to decide.
We talked a little bit about the air conditioning units, and this is part of the organizers of this year's Olympics saying that they want to put on the greenest games ever and eschewing AC, they say, for that reason. I want you to get us up to speed on what's happening with the Seine River. Discovery of unhealthy levels of bacteria there. Are some open water swimming events truly in danger of not even taking place? And I know there's a whole other issue of the people of France protesting defecating in the river, only making matters worse. What is going on?
All right, so France spent $1.5 billion to work on sanitizing the river ahead of these games. So these protests that you're talking about are people who are frustrated by how much money was spent to try to clean this river and the fact that we're a month away and it may not, in fact, be clean. There are two events that are supposed to take place on the river. There's marathon swimming. There's also the triathlon. Those are in danger right now. We are 1 month away, and the most recent E. coli testing showed that conditions weren't sanitary enough for swimming, at least the swimming standards that would be required. We don't know anything from Olympic officials or French officials as to where the plan B would be or what the plan B would be. They're not being public with that. You've got a feeling they're probably prepared for a plan B. But earlier this week, some public officials were planning to do a swim themselves to show, hey, it's fine, we can all swim. That got postponed, and when that event was going to take place, you had those people that were going to, let's say, take matters into their own hands to show that the river is not quite what it seems.
I was wondering what happened with that. I believe it was Macron as well as some others. They were publicly, they set a date, we're going to swim in the river, it's going to be clean, and literally people dropping trow and making sure that wasn't going to happen. All right, it got postponed after all. They got their wish. Ryan Burrow, so much to talk about. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.